Many of the characters considered great are simple. A good character does not necessarily have to be complex to be considered good, but that doesn't mean when complexity is done right, it does not work wonders. Some of my favorite anime characters are built around the concept of duality. It is when a character has those intriguing, conflicting personality traits that they feel much more human. At this point in the story, Shin is now well and truly flirting with not only great general status, but great character status. Welcome to another Kingdom video. My name is Miken, and today we're talking about how Kingdom masterfully uses duality. Duality is built around the contrast of two different concepts. Take for example Shin. There is one really cool example of duality in his character that I want to talk about. His general childlike boisterousness contrasting with his unwavering will to stand against anything unjust. What makes Shin such a special character is this duality. The fact that he can be annoyingly headstrong, but also inspiring. To put it in simple terms, the duality is Shin the general versus Shin the empath. At any one time, Shin could be brash, shouting to the top of his lungs to rouse his troops, all for the sake of becoming the greatest general under the heavens. At another, Shin could be as gentle as ever, soft-spoken, understanding, recognizing what it takes to unify all of China and why it needs to be done. To begin with, it's important to recall the lead up to the Conquest of Han to truly break down the duality of Shin. With the stakes being higher than ever, Shin's decisions have never held more gravity than now. And it isn't as simple as having to perform well on the battlefield. Shin's work off the battlefield is just as crucial. As of chapter 801, Shin was promoted to one step below Great General. At the time, it didn't mean much beyond becoming one of the three new mainstay armies for Shin. Now, we know that when Shueisha said he would be shouldering the heavy responsibility of Shin's grand military strategy, it had much more meaning. What I mean is Shin's responsibility in gaining the conquered people's trust. In hindsight, there is much more meaning to Shueisha trusting Shin with the responsibility of bringing down Han, since it ended up being much more than defeating a great general alone. Shin's decisions become even more impressive when Ouhon reminds us that never since the beginning of the Warring States era has a kingdom completely fallen. The stakes are now set. Shin must defeat Han in only 2 years while keeping all losses to a minimum. This means every battle has to be damn near flawless, as if the enemy should have surrendered to begin with. Foreshadow, am I right? So how will Shin respond, knowing that the fate of our quest for unification depends on this single campaign? How will Shin clutch up? That's exactly what we're going to be breaking down next. Starting with Kyokai's strategy. Her strategy for taking Nanyou without any fighting would not have truly worked unless Shin did his part in appealing to the conquered people's angered hearts. Only after that could Nanyou actually be considered taken. If we head back to chapter 810, To asked Shin to find a way for the Heishin unit to involve themselves with the Nanyou people. To's reasoning was that he felt as though Shin and his unit were closer to the people than his own men. Immediately, I'm thinking, cool, makes sense. Shin and his unit have always been the good guys after conquering a city. And when I say good, I mean as good as can be, since they are still invaders in the end. Shortly after, Shin, while discussing sleeping arrangements with the Nanyou people, tries to be as considerate as possible. But Garo makes a great point. No matter the stories of the Heishin unit's lack of civilian violence, it doesn't matter. To any ordinary person, Shin, the general invading their home, is as terrifying as Kunki. This is when he remembers what To had in mind and comes up with the brilliant plan of breaking bread with the Nanyou people. Something that has survived the test of time is two parties, no matter the strength of their relations, sharing a meal to bring about trust. Most of the time though, the trust is fickle, and instead breaking bread only brings about temporary comfort. Literally everyone in the unit is skeptical except for Shin. For good reason. They could slip in poison. They could attack the members while they're drunk. But Shin understands that someone has to be the bigger person, and someone like Shin is more than willing. Starting with not bringing any weapons in. A simple but effective gesture. Obviously, this isn't going to be enough to take away all the rage, but it starts the process of creating an atmosphere of openness. Cut to the actual mealtime. As expected, everybody is on edge. The unit isn't the only one that is skeptical. The Nanyou people also feel as though they're walking on glass. But we do know one thing, it is slowly working. The people are starting to realize the Heishin unit unit's true nature. That is, until one Nanyou boy tries to get revenge for his father. Anyone would think this would completely derail Shin's efforts. No, even their elder, Onkei, tries to get his own revenge while Shin's back is turned. If the first attempt was something that could be brushed aside, this attempt on Shin could definitely not be brushed aside, or so we thought. The unit, to no surprise, is furious at Onkei, but Shin of all people, the one whose life is threatened, tells his own unit to shut up. This should have been the attempt to shut down any chance at reconciliation, but Shin knows better. This is what it means to truly be the bigger person. This is what To meant when he said Shin and his unit were closer to the people. Really, it might be better to say Shin alone is closer to the people. Out of everyone here, Shin knows pain all too well. It is why he accepts that Onkei isn't wrong to draw his weapon. Pain is not the same for any one person. Pain from years ago can feel as fresh as yesterday. This is something that is so real, and a lot of people in real life don't understand. Pain hurts differently for everyone. Unless someone has experienced loss themselves, they won't get it. Not everyone can thug it out. Shin said it best. Onkei's pain is his alone. Garo, the bastard, who always has something to say, argues that Shin's thinking is too naive. Maybe so. He argues that everyone should be on guard to prevent exactly what just happened to Shin, or else it might happen to someone else. But I agree with what Shin said next. What happened to him is a direct result of being on guard in the first place. Those subtleties matter. Everyone can tell from a mile away when there's tension, or when they're not truly welcome. What we're witnessing is Shin the empath. He speaks of how the world is now, which is both funny and beautiful. I'm Shin, who was born in Chin, or I'm Onkei, who was born in Han, but still live in the same unified country. A world where everyone can live in the same United States or whatever country and not have to be born there to share in the same joy and pain. The ideal world that Shin speaks of is our real life world mostly, but he knows that the difficult work has to be done eventually, if that world is ever going to come into fruition. So why not now? He won't take away Onkei's blade by force, but that doesn't mean he'll let Onkei stab him for free. Shin is willing to be patient and stop him every time until he's ready to let go. This is what I mean by our main character being street smart. The key to street smartness, or better like words, is having that worldly experience. Saying Shin has some of this is an understatement. If it wasn't clear already, when Kyogai and Shin break down what just happened afterwards, she said that doing anything different in hindsight wouldn't have allowed Shin's words to echo in their hearts as firmly as they did. Inspecting for if they had weapons, for example, would have, like Shin inferred to before, subtly contributed more to that suffocating air of mistrust. Flash forward to right before the Battle of 8 Plains, and it's safe to say Shin sowing the seeds of trust worked out nicely. So nicely that Onkei, the one who hated them the most, made them protective charms. The people now love the Heishin unit because Shin created the opportunity in the first place for the people to accept them. He did the hardest part quickly. If we want to talk about foreshadow, Kyoko back during Kokyo Hills had an old lady from Kokyo make her a protective charm, and she is definitely a great representative of the Heishin unit's values. So it's no surprise what the Nanyou people are doing for them after giving them a chance to get along. Shin's plan worked out so well that Onkei, of all people, went around to all the anti-Chin groups in the shadows to try and persuade them that the Chin army means well, echoing Shin's sentiment of laying down their blades of hatred, echoing Shin's fervor in stopping them again and again until they set aside their hatred. He lost 2 teeth following in Shin's footsteps. Side note, the reduction of reinforcements at the Battle of 8 Plains was a direct result of Shin's efforts. The surrounding cities weren't asked to not send soldiers. Rather, they heard about the happenings inside of Nanyou. And then we have Shin the General, the complete opposite of Shin the empath that we saw in Nanyou. During his vice commander speech, that childlike boisterousness was on full display. The first thing he did was reaffirm his resolve in becoming the greatest general under the heavens and carving his name into history. Imagine that was the first thing the Nanyou people heard. If I'm them, I'm thinking it's up for us. All he wants is glory. Why would he care about us? Like I said, that duality makes Shin special. That same gentle and understanding Shin is able to turn up when necessary. This had to be one of the most epic speeches of all time, laying out all his military feats, saying that slaying enemies is what the Heishin unit does, confirming that he has come so far after starting out as a slave. But all that matters now is that this unit is more passionate than any other, spills more blood than any other, achieves more massive feats than any other. This speech is beyond hype, and he not only boasts that he will take Hakuokoku's head, but does exactly that. He wasn't all talk when he said that victory would be because of the Heishin unit's efforts. To's strategy for taking Shinte without any fighting would not have worked at all if Shin did not take the head of Hakuokoku. A sense of hopelessness needed to be instilled in Princess Nei and the Han King's eyes to even consider surrender. And killing Han's second greatest general satisfied that win condition perfectly. Cut to the actual fight between Shin and Hakuokoku. I'd be lying if I said Shin did not care about grandeur or heroism. But to say that he only cares about those things alone is when Hakuokoku is wrong. Yes, he might be bearing the will of every Han citizen, and Shin might still be boasting about becoming the greatest general under the heavens. But he, unlike Hakuokoku, is bearing the hopes of every citizen in China. That duality kicks in. That conflict between the two sides of his personality. He may be fighting for his dream, but Shin is also fighting with the hope that he can put an end to constant warring. If Shin really was only a wicked invader, he wouldn't have this much power or resolve or weight. Think about any super important decision in your life. The most simple example is if you had to save your loved one from being crushed by something. You'd exhibit an inhuman amount of strength, of adrenaline, and ignore all pain. It's not that Shin isn't an invader. It's that he is more than a simple invader. He is fighting for something that's life-changing. This is what Kyokai meant when she said that they weren't invaders. Memes aside, what she meant was that being the Heishin unit has always been more than just invading. If there really can be justice in these warring states, the Heishin unit might be the most just invaders out there. And as we all know, war don't lie, and Shin ends up getting the job done. If you made it to the end, thank you for tuning in. It would mean a lot to me if you guys left a like and a comment, share this video with a friend, and subscribe for more videos like this.